Is it on? Is it on? I'm talking to myself. I know it's on. What's up, everybody? Kier Gomes here, and welcome back. Today's episode is going to be a request that I've been getting non-stop, and I'm happy to do it because, to be honest, today I didn't feel like reviewing a deck. I felt like teaching something. So a question that I've been getting asked is, what is the excitement of a double backer? Why is it my favorite gaff card? What can I do with it? How should I use it? Is there a way that I can use it to make my Magic routine better? So in today's episode, I'm gonna be going over two very easy things that beginners can do immediately to get use out of their double backers. I say beginners because if you're not a beginner, you probably don't need this video, but if you are, or if you're just curious to see what I say, stick around. Before we get started, please do drop a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, intro.
Let's go.
All right, so there are plenty of things that you can do with a double backer, and I'm definitely not saying that these two things are the only things. But if you want a quick way to use this gaff card and a very effective way to use it to maybe make some things a little bit easier, here you go. Now, the first thing we're gonna cover is how you can use a double backer as a control. So to get a card from the middle of the deck, or seemingly from the middle of the deck, back to the top without it ever having to leave. I'm gonna show you two examples of this and explain how it's done. So here we go. All right, so for these examples, I'm going to be using the Les Melis Eclipse Edition playing cards by Pure Imagination. A lot of decks these days have double backers. This just happened to be one that I had out, so this is the one we're using. All right, so the first thing is going to be how to control a card using a double backer. So all you need for this is a double backer. Ultimately, the only prerequisite for this is being comfortable with some kind of double lift, whether you're using the pinky count, the push off. I like to use the strike double because it just looks the most natural to me. But essentially, here's how it works. A card can be selected by a spectator. Let's say in this case, it is the 10 of diamonds, okay? You can have them sign it, you don't have to. You take the 10 of diamonds, drop it somewhere in the middle, and just like that, you've actually controlled the card back to the top of the deck. All right, so let's talk about how that works. What you want to do is take a deck that has a double backer and place the double backer on top. So all your cards are face down, keep your double backer on top. Now, the reason you want to do this is because, one, it keeps the double backer hidden. So if you're performing this for a spectator, you really can spread through the cards and say, look, every card's different, and they're not going to see it. The point of a double backer is to be hidden, but very useful. Now, the other thing is if you're performing this for a spectator, you can even shuffle the cards and just retain that top card, so that way it looks very deceiving. It looks like you're giving a fair shuffle, because you kind of are, but you're keeping your double backer right there on top. If you're doing this just for the camera, it doesn't really matter, but again, if you're doing it for a spectator, it just adds a little bit more flavor, okay? So now you can have them reach in and touch a card, you can have them pull a card out, you can even have them just name a card. So let's say in this case, they name the Ace of Spades, okay? Now you wanna do this because it makes it personal. So you'll take the Ace of Spades out of the deck, you'll show it to them, you can again have them sign it if you want, and drop it face up right on top. Now remember, right under this is gonna be your double backer. So this is on top. Now what you wanna do is get a nice double lift, very clean, very convincing. I'm gonna use the strike double for this one. And all I'm gonna do is just push it over, pick up the two cards as one, and turn them over. So it should look something like this. Now I'm putting the double backer in the middle. The Ace of Spades never actually left the deck. So I'm gonna show you that one more time, only this time I'm gonna expose the angle just a little bit more. Spectator reaches in and pulls out a card. In this case, it's the 4 of hearts. We turn it over, drop it on top, make sure it's flush with the rest of the deck. Now what you wanna do is grab the 2 cards as one, turn them over, and then place your double backer somewhere in the middle. Of course, you want to try to hide that as much as possible, but the nice thing is the angles on this are really good. As long as you can do a double lift without getting caught, then you're going to be okay, all right? The most important thing is when you put the double backer in the middle, don't show the face of the card, because obviously then your spectator is going to know that something weird is going on, even if they don't know what it is. So there you go. That is really the most effective way to control a card without actually having to control it. So there you go. If you're not familiar with other controls like the pass or the double undercut, which I think is the easiest, this will kind of help you get that same effect without actually having to go through the hassle of learning that new sleight, or just while you're learning it. This is a good way to get your magic started right away. Very, very beginner level, but still very, very effective. All right, it is just that simple, but there is something else that you can use a double backer for, and this is gonna be for you beginners out there that are looking for an easy and effective way to force a card without having to learn about all the difficult sleights and deceptions to force a card. Basically, this is the easiest way that I know to force a card, and it's using the use of a double backer. It's not the most practical way, and it's definitely not my preferred method, but if you don't know anything else, here you go. All right, so the next thing that you can do with a double backer is force a card. So if you're not comfortable with things like the classic force or the riffle force or my personal favorite, which is the Hindu force, you can use a double backer. It's not the most practical method for forcing a card, but it does work. So let me go ahead and show you what it would look like. All you need to do is take your double backer and you can set it aside. So for right now, I'll just put it over here. Then you want to take whatever card you want to force. So for this example, let's use the Ace of Spades. All right, so you have the whole deck face down. You want to take the card that you're going to force and put it face up, and then you want to put your double backer right on top of it, okay? Now, basically this is going to be a hidden move, so you want it to look like all the cards are face down. So you want to do something like, if you're going to show the cards, do a block pushover, so that way your spectator doesn't see the face up card, okay? So now you have your force card face up, all the other cards face down, double backer right on top. Ultimately, to force a card using this principle, all you need to do is have your spectator pick up about half the deck, let's say about there, and then you would instruct them, okay, you have half the cards, put them face up on top of the rest of the pack, okay? So now you'd be in a situation like this. Ultimately, if you want them to choose the Ace of Spades, you would say, okay, so you cut the cards in half, let's see what the first face down card is. That's gonna be your card, it should be the Ace of Spades. There you go. All right, so let's talk about kind of how that works, all right? So with these two cards, you have your force card and your double backer. When you put the force card face up and the double backer on top, all you're really doing is making it so that way when the deck rotates, in theory, the two cards on top, which will be your double backer and your Ace of Spades, are now gonna be face down. Since the double backer has two back designs, it just looks like another card that gets placed under the first top-down card. So, really quick, for the sake of explanation, we have face down cards, face up cards, and then we have this here, okay? So now the spectator picks up half the cards. If you try to keep track of where the Ace of Spades is, it makes more sense. So they picked up half the pack, you have half the pack in your hand, have them turn it over. Look at what's happening. You're turning it over, and these two cards now become face down and the rest of them face up. So now the first face down card every single time is gonna be whatever card you were trying to force, and that's just another way of doing it. Now again, that's not the most practical way to force a card, so I don't usually recommend it. There also is a way to do it without using a double backer, and that's called the cut deeper force. And if you want a tutorial on that, I think there's probably one online somewhere, so I will direct you there. All right, now this one also works from any angle as long as you know what you're doing. I would recommend, if you're gonna do that force, learn the block pushover, which essentially will hide any dirty work you have up here. Like if you wanted to hide this, you would just do a block pushover so that way nobody sees it, and all you're doing is just pushing over a bigger chunk of cards when you spread through. This is very dramatic, but you can see it, okay? So I would definitely recommend learning that, and then as well, I would say have some patter around it to justify what you're doing, because it is kind of an unusual way to force a card, and it doesn't seem very natural, but it is definitely something that you can do if you're a beginner and you're looking for effective ways to force a card for whatever magic effect you're learning. All right, there you go. Well guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode and my tutorials on how you can use a double backer. If you're new to this channel, we do deck reviews, we do discussions, vlogs, tutorials, and giveaways. And speaking of giveaways, if you're interested in winning this Black Roses t-shirt, the creation of palming, as well as the very rare and not yet printed Black Roses casino deck, I will link the video right after this one so you can figure out how you can enter to win. I hope that's enough to get you to like the video if you liked it, and I hope that's enough to get you to consider to subscribe if you haven't already. So what do you guys use double backers for? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read them. All that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. I know I will. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.